minimum one claim under a insurance policy for their insureds, but not many agents have had the opportunity or the privilege of being involved in a cyber breach claim. So when your insureds contact you with questions, oftentimes our agents don't have the answers that they need, and it creates a bit of a stressful situation. So again, our goal today is to try and bring a little bit of information and clarity to this unique and occasionally a little bit scary of a situation. So I've titled this presentation, what to expect when you're breaching. I'm going to try and hit on a couple of the unique questions or perils, and also kind of hit a little bit upon the players that are involved in a cyber breach claim events. I want to answer the primary question of whether or not I should call. I'll give the answer. It's yes. I'm going to hit upon who the breach coach is, introduce you to the carrier claims team, and just try and give, again, a little bit of information on the overall experience in reporting of a cyber claim under the Victor Oceaner cyber protection policy. So again, your insured calls, they have got a situation, they aren't sure what to do, they've lost a laptop, the network admin has identified unique activity, the network is not accessible, they've been made aware that a client has lost their deposit funds on a business transfer fraud loss. They're asking you, should I call? Again, the answer is yes. So the Victor Oceaner Cyber Protection Program is unique, and it was built from the ground up to try and deliver some valuable resources and valuable services related to all things cyber to insureds, to small businesses who otherwise would not have access to this. So we went out and partnered with a breach coach to try and essentially deliver this service to our insureds. It's really important to note that our program does not have an arbitrary time limit. It doesn't say you have 60 minutes for the policy year to contact our breach coach. There is no defined time limit for the access to this service. I put within parentheses within reason. So if an insured is contacting the coach on a daily basis to discuss cyber topics, blockchain, ransomware losses, soccer, baseball, whatever it is, then there's going to have to be a conversation between us, the agent, and the insured. But for the reasonable use and access to the breach coach for questions, perils, problems related to cyber losses under the cyber policy, there is no time limit for this service being delivered. And additionally, there is no penalty for calling. So one of the real valuable tenets of our program is that the breach coach is a separate and distinct entity from the carrier. So many cyber programs, in order to access a breach coach service or a cyber resource, you must notice the carrier to trigger cover under the policy to then access those services. So this contacting of our breach coach is a wholly separate entity. You can call them, and there is no penalty for incidents. There's no triggering of cover under the policy. This is a resource that is, functionally and essentially fully independent from the policy. Additionally, what we've provided to the insured is access to one of the largest privacy and specialist law firms in the world. This firm that we have partnered with has been built from the ground up with a strict focus on cyber and privacy liability risks. So this is something that not every business is going to have in their Rolodex. So they have literally at their fingertips a 24/7, 365 actively monitored voicemail box to one of the world's largest privacy and specialist law firms in the world. And I put this in parentheses as well, that even hangups are investigated. This voicemail box is so well monitored and so actively monitored that even when somebody were to call that number and then hang up because, let's say, they didn't realize who they were calling, or they suddenly realized they didn't have the details that was necessary, or it was a wrong number, even hang-ups are investigated. We run a check on who's the phone number. Is this an insured of ours? Is this an agent of ours? Do they have questions? Is there something that they need answered or responded to? This is, again, that actively monitored that we investigate even hang-ups. So I wanted to kind of hit a little bit upon the players involved in a breach or claim response solution. So again, as mentioned, the breach coach. This is the team at Mullen Coughlin. Again, it's one of the world's largest privacy and cyber liability specialist teams in the world. And what they essentially perform as a breach quarterback on behalf of the insured to make sure that all claims and coverage responses are adequately and appropriately delivered to the insured. So correspondence with the carrier will be both performed and assisted with by the breach coach. Any invoicing, any payments, any action necessary. Once the coverage has been triggered, the breach coach will essentially be your de facto claims handler. They will also deliver to you the engagement with the vendors, deliver to your insureds the engagement with vendors. They'll assist in the selection of vendors. They'll assist in the invoicing of vendors. They'll assist in the payment of vendors if they're from the proper panel and it was triggered under a data breach under our policy. They are essentially your quarterback to drive you through the breach and loss event. It's really important to note, and I put this with an exclamation point, that the breach coach is legal counsel. This avails to the insured some attorney-client privilege protections that can be really valuable in a loss or a cyber claim event that might involve multiple players. Whatever was found by a vendor, if it was forensic findings or legal findings, this is the insured's own property. It's not to be shared with others. And having that established legal counsel for the engagement with those services and those vendors can be a real value when push comes to shove. And it's also important to note for a couple reasons that contact and calling the breach coach does not equate to notice to the carrier. This is, as I mentioned earlier, a benefit in that it doesn't trigger an incident count or a claim count under the policy, so they aren't penalized for contacting the breach coach for an event that otherwise turned into nothing. But also, contacting the breach coach does not involve the actual notice that's required under the policy to trigger cover. So that brings us to the introduction of the next player in a cyber claim or cyber breach event under the Victor Oceaner Cyber Protection Policy, and that is the Chubb Claims Department. So, as you know, our policy it's our own unique policy language, but it's written on Chubb paper. And the Chubb Claims team is the guy behind the guy that ensures that all the claims are appropriately handled and responded to. And they require specific notice by policy, either via phone, email, fax, or even snail mail. And I'll actually, the next slide has all the details if you wish to write it down and have it at quick reference. But notice can be delivered via any four of those mediums to communicate the coverage need under the policy. It's really important to note that any payment under the policy requires their involvement and approval. So if an insured were to contact the breach coach, they've got a burning server, a problem that is needing immediate immediate assistance or resolution, and they engage with a vendor and they start incurring expenses and they don't notice Chubb and they don't receive adequate approval of the expenditure, those dollars may or may not be covered under the policy. So it's really important to note that any payment under the policy requires their involvement or approval, which is why we've made sure that there is very fast contact methods available. Phone, email, fax. Again, you can do snail mail, but that's probably not appropriate for an immediate pending need. The Chubb Claims team is truly highly experienced in all aspects of cyber risk. My personal experience with the Chubb Claims team has been nothing but favorable. I have been impressed with their professionalism and their reputation for their exemplary claims handling is truly earned, and it's earned in every single claim that they are involved with. I do think that they spend the vast majority of their time looking for ways to ensure that the insured is adequately covered and appropriately covered under the policy. And lastly, the last player that I don't wish to ignore is the team here at Shinnerer. We are here to help. We will work to ensure that the proper service and the proper coverage has been delivered to your insured. That's what we're hired and that's what we're paid for. So if there's a problem, if there's a blip, if there's a need of any sort, please do not hesitate to contact us and keep us in the loop on all claims correspondence and coverage needs. So again, here are the specific contact details for all the different parties involved. The breach coach 1844 number. This is, again, a 24/7, 365 monitored voicemail. available at all times, and it is extremely valuable to establish rapport and determine any applicable next steps under the policy. The different numbers available or contact methods to report the loss to the carrier, these are all here right there for you. And then again, your center cyber underwriter, our contact info is at the end of our presentation today. So what to expect during the overall breach reporting process. So if you're to contact the breach coach, what you will do is you will leave a voicemail with your contact information. It is highly valuable and of a great assistance if you can also provide policy number and details. Now, it's not necessary, if you don't have them at your fingertips, it's not absolutely necessary. It can be fleshed out afterwards, if you will, but it can help get the ball rolling a lot quicker on our side if we can verify that the insured is indeed a valid policy holder, getting any applicable coverage details and coverage information quickly to assist our determination of next steps is, again, hugely valuable in what can be a very sensitive cyber claim or breach loss event. So after leaving the voicemail with your contact information, you will then receive a call from the breach coach. It will be one of their staff attorneys, whoever has been charged with monitoring the breach coach hotline at the time. They will discuss the current cyber event. So having those details is going to be hugely valuable for that conversation. And make sure that you know what's going on. If you can have any applicable professionals on staff available for the conversation, if you've got a network administrator who has discovered the event and they can provide some more technical color to the breach loss claim event that is ongoing, having them available for the conversation can help greatly assist in determining the advisable next steps. And these next steps are, again, wildly variable depending on the nature of the cyber event that required the notice to the breach coach. So they may advise to immediately report to the carrier. If you've got a cyber extortion or a ransomware event that is with the clock ticking down literally upon your monitor, noticing the carrier immediately to get them on notice for any applicable immediate response is going to be their advice. They may advise you to engage with a specific vendor or a service provider. It might be a forensic team, it might be a data restoration team, it might well be the FBI. They're going to give you some of that valuable advice to make sure that the next steps taken are the appropriate steps to ensure adequate and appropriate response to the insured. So reporting to the carrier. So if the breach coach has advised, or if the event is clearly a reportable claim under the policy, then you can report again to the carrier via a variety of different methods. The phone number is actually an extraordinarily easy method to report. There is a business hours phone number, and there's also an after hours phone number that you can use to contact the carrier. So if you're calling during at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, you'll call the business hours phone number as noted earlier in the presentation, and you will navigate the menu options. They are pretty easy to go through. You will select obviously a non-workers' compensation claim. You will say that this is a new claim and that the loss has happened within the United States. And then it will then give you you might have a little bit of a hold time, but then you'll be put to a claims administrator who is then going to take all policy information that you have in order to properly notice, to properly tender notice under the policy. So you're going to need the named insured, you're going to need the policy number, in order for us and they to verify that indeed this is an active policy that coverage is being determined. Then also have any applicable breach claim details at hand, all relevant known information that is needed to take advisable next steps and take action. If you've got again, that ransomware scenario with less than 24 hours, to determine response, if you don't give this information to the carrier immediately, how can they take immediate action to assist you? So having these details right at hand, again, having perhaps any in-house or other resources right there available to respond to these questions is going to be really important to ensure that the insured gets adequate response from the carrier. You will then need to obtain contact information, get the name and phone number of the Chubb Claims contact in order to call if assistance is needed. And then, of course, alert your agent, or the insured needs to make sure the agent or broker is made aware that action has been taken under the insurance policy. And an agent can't help if they aren't made aware. So make sure that you're informing your insureds to keep you in the loop of any coverage loss notice under the policy. The insurer can also contact the carrier by either email, fax, or snail mail. Again, same response is necessary. Provide the policy information, provide the breach and claim details, and provide contact information so they can take appropriate action to respond to the loss that's being reported. So it's really important to note that cyber losses and claims are each unique. There's commonalities across many claims, but each loss is truly unique to the insured. And oftentimes, everybody involved is really kind of learning something new, which is kind of exciting, and also it can make a little bit of a challenging experience. Because of this, the breach coach really is invaluable in assessing timely needs. As mentioned earlier, and many times, this is one of the largest privacy and cyber specialist law firms in the world. They literally have heard it and seen it all. So you're contacting them while they might, your loss again is unique and specific to your experience. They're gonna have enough experience and enough I like the term, resources available to give appropriate and immediate advice to take appropriate action. Now, carrier claims formal acknowledgement can take several days to receive. Again, the presumption that because this is a cyber policy and sometimes there is immediate action that's necessary to respond appropriately to whatever peril that the insured is facing. For many for some claims or breach events, quicker action is needed. So if you're sitting around waiting for carrier response or formal claim acknowledgement, waiting for a 2 or 3 day mailing notice is not going to be appropriate. So contacting insurer, contacting the breach coach in order to go to action can result in immediate response. I have personally been involved in calling some very senior people at Chubb to kick surprisingly quick action into play. Contacted one of their chief claims handlers after hours on a Friday afternoon. Has happened, and it will happen again. And it's been entertaining to check my email on Monday morning and see just how much action had taken place over the weekend. Action can be quick. It just, if it's one of those events that require it, make sure that appropriate action is taken. All right. So part of the process, so also what to expect in the coverage determination. So as mentioned, every cyber claim is unique, and it truly requires a pretty dedicated study of the policy, the loss events, and the scenarios to ensure appropriate coverage has been delivered to the insured. If there is indeed a declination of cover, the insured will of course receive an adequate and appropriate declination. That will not come immediately; it will come in time, but it will be certainly communicated to the insured as needed. A coverage termination might involve a reservation of rights. If there are some elements of the loss that are clearly covered or some elements of loss that need further investigation, the carrier will issue what's called a reservation of rights to essentially communicate to the insured that some elements are being covered under the policy, and we're taking a look at the rest of it. You also may receive an immediate covering of the loss. Again, each loss is unique. Each loss is special, for lack of a better term. And we're going to be working hard to ensure that the insured, that everything is appropriately communicated to the insured. So the difference. Let's see. So that's what the communications that you should expect from the carrier on this particular policy. All right. So again, as I kind of wanted to really stress this, that each cyber claim is really difficult and unique. We really want to make sure that there is appropriate support and response available to the insureds to make sure that they have the resources necessary to protect themselves and take appropriate action for the cyber claims that have been delivered and reported under the laws. And with that, let's see, I kind of wanted to, again, a quick summary. There are two primary players involved in the breach reporting process. There is the breach coach and the Chubb Claims team. Contact the breach coach with questions, problems, or other issues that you might experience in order to receive immediate support and response for the loss events. It's important to note that it is not the carrier, so there is not a penalty for over contacting of the breach coach, but it does not equate notice to the carrier for a covered loss. For any payables under the policy, you need to notice the carrier. That is by either phone, email, fax, or snail mail. And with that, the then breach coach and Chubb Claims team will work together to ensure that all appropriate action is delivered to respond to the loss or breach event. So that's it. It's pretty short, pretty simple. I hope it gives a little bit of color to a pretty difficult and questionable situation. I do open the floor to any questions if anybody might have anything. Simply type into the chat box on the side to to put the questions in, what you might have. I did see a couple questions come in already. There we go. It's kind of an interesting question. So why would you want to contact a lawyer for something as small as a computer lock for ransom, a ransomware loss event? Why would you need to call a lawyer and not call a forensic guy or something else? Truth is, so when a computer is locked for ransom, it's not strictly an extortion scheme. There's a virus that has been implanted into your network that you have no idea of understanding the breadth of this virus. Is this virus simply locking up your screen, or has it simply encrypted your hard drive locally on this machine itself? Or has it compromised your network communication and is transferring valuable data, or has been made back to another location, or has it made viewable to the public sensitive private information that you need to keep protected? So contacting an attorney who can then assist you in getting a vendor to do appropriate forensic investigation and analysis of this virus that your computer has been affected by, and then having a lawyer involved in the analysis of the findings. If it has been made viewable, but the data that has been made viewable is little more than name and address, but no sensitive account details, that doesn't meet the threshold of a privacy or cyber breach. A forensic guy isn't going to be able to make that determination, and your average insured is certainly not going to be able to make that determination. A specialist law firm is going to be necessary to make appropriate determination of action. So that's why, even on something as seemingly simple as a ransomware event or a virus, contacting a law firm is of significant importance and value. Another question has popped up. Wouldn't the client's trusted IT team who knows the system already be a lower costly, a less expensive approach to response? So the use of in-house resources can be a valuable resource or valuable solution to respond to a cyber breach or loss or compromise event. But if there is extra expense involved, let's say they need to bring in an independent contractor, or if they need to take some extra expense internally, whether it's overtime or something else, the use of the in-house resources in concert with outside resources might be what's necessary to ensure that the insured is brought back up to full speed. Further, if the insured delays reporting of this loss or breach, let's say an insured's internal resources have been brought down by either a virus or a malicious attack or a DDoS event or something that is a otherwise covered event, and the insured spends 4 days trying to resolve this loss internally, and then finally says, you know what, I need outside help, I need coverage under the policy. That 4 days is now not going to be covered under the policy because they did not notice under the policy. They didn't let the carrier know that there has been a problem, and their involvement of internal resources is not covered by policy. Thus, those 4 days of interrupted or impacted revenue may not be covered by policy. So to go back to that original question, should I call? The answer is yes. If you've got a problem, if you've got a cyber loss event that is otherwise addressed by policy, yes, you may be able to handle it under the policy yourselves, and there might be a good reason to do so. But it also might behoove the insured to notice the carrier, to notice the breach coach to get their involvement and assistance. Here's a good question actually. So the question is, will we be triggering the retention when a call is made to the breach coach or the law firm? And the answer to that is no. As noted earlier, the breach coach and Chubb Claims are wholly separate and independent entities. So this is again by design to give the insured valuable access to legal services, legal advice, without actually triggering any potentially for lack of a term, penalties to the insured for triggering under the policy. So since it is not, you're not noticing the carrier, there is not any expense being incurred. There's no payments being incurred under the policy. So there technically is no coverage in the policy, therefore no retention, no limits or expenses. The advice being given to you by the breach coach is, for lack of a better term, free. There's no expense involved. There's no cost involved. Now, if you engage with the breach coach because there is a loss event that is a loss scenario that may not be covered by policy. Let's say it's something that you've been noticed 2 years ago, and now they've finally brought claim against you, and that's outside of the purview of the policy. You can engage with the law firms directly outside of the policy. You can engage expense, but that is kind of a unique situation and not particularly common. And another question real quick is, how long does it take the breach coach to return a call? As mentioned a couple times, this is a 24/7, 365 monitored voicemail. They will work really hard to ensure that they return a call as quickly as possible. Could be almost immediate, up to an hour or two. Generally, I've heard report back that the breach coach has contacted the insured back following an appropriate voicemail in under an hour. It's pretty quick. Again, every event could be unique, and there may be outliers, but we endeavor to contact the insured as quick as possible.
Hey, Jason, it's Matt. I actually have seen the breach coach respond to a hang-up 1 minute, literally 1 minute after the hang-up came in on a Saturday afternoon. So they monitor it vigilantly.
Yeah, that's more vigilantly than I was aware of. Yeah. All right. Oh, that's a good question. Let me just move up too fast. Sorry. So can an insured call another law firm or outside party, or only the ones that we utilize? So the policy is a duty to defend policy, and we do have the choice of counsel built in the policy. But our policy also has some benefits available to the insured if they utilize our breach coach and vendors engage with the breach coach via the net diligence panel, or the E-Risk Hub panel. So if you utilize our breach coach and utilize our vendors under the panel, under if you will, the purview of or the guidance of the breach coach, that is duty to defend, pay on behalf for data breach team expenses. This is a pretty valuable benefit because some of these expenses can accrue very quickly. And very few businesses have set aside a significant budget for a data breach response solution. Now, again, you can utilize outside counsel if it's of the benefit or to the benefit of the insured. But again, we have contacted not just your average average law firm. This is a specialist team that all the more they know and do is cyber and privacy law. So this is what they wake up and thinking about. This is what they go to bed thinking about. They have the phone sitting literally right next to them apparently on a Saturday afternoon. They're an excellent resource and one I'd highly recommend utilizing for a breach or cyber loss event.
And Jason, if I can add to that, so the last state has finally added a cyber breach law. So we had a small insured that only had 35 employees. They had an incident, and they were actually in 5 states because of the way that people move, people can work remotely, we're more virtual than we've ever been. And so now that's 5 different breach reporting laws that have to be addressed. And the timing could be all different on all of those. And so if you utilize someone who's less familiar with this process just because they're a lawyer that someone trusts as their normal lawyer, that means it's billable hours that are going to be expended in order to get up to speed on all those regulations and all that research that's already in-house knowledge when you're talking about a data breach coach.
it's also important to note that privacy laws apply to where the individual impacted resides, not where the business resides. So even though your business might be domiciled in Arkansas, but if you do business with individuals in Missouri, Louisiana, Tennessee, and Kansas, and there's a compromise impacting all those individuals' data in those specific states, those state laws apply. So your attorney might be excellent. He might be a specialist in Arkansas law, but is not well versed in Kansas. That's again accrue the additional expense, delay, and impact utilizing the individual counsel versus utilizing a specialist law firm like Mullen Coughlin. Last question, real quick. I think if you have other questions, please feel free to email or contact any of us here. This is what we live for. But does the breach coach law firm explain that the call is free when the insured first calls? They advise them that this is a resource being provided to them as a policy holder. They will try and verify that the insured is a policy holder of an active cyber policy, and they will also contact us to try and verify that the policy is in play. I've been involved in some past lives with this team, and that when contacted by a insured who was not an active policy holder, they gave them some valuable time and advice before they kind of, like the term, cut the cord. But it's a unique approach, a unique solution that really is a resource to the insured, and it's not all about the money, I think. So it's pretty exciting. And with that, Matt, any other additional points or thoughts?
Nope, this is great. Thank you.
Okay. Again, thank you all so much for your time this afternoon. I hope it helps a little bit. If you want the slides will be available online for your future review or share if you need. And again, if you have any questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to contact any of us here at the Shinra team. Again, we are here to assist and help you out. With that, thank you much, and have a good day.